let me introduce myself. My name's Jackie, and this is my channel. Feels weird saying. I got a few things I want to talk about, but first I'm going to talk about me. So, I am recently graduated from my bachelor's degree, undergrad, and I graduated in 2021. So in 2020, it was COVID year, and extra long spring break turned into how do I now have a full-time job in my own apartment? So we'll be talking about that eventually. But it definitely happened very fast. So I definitely think about it sometimes, and I'm just like, how is this my life? Piper says hi. She's just very cute. But in other news, like working in a corporate job is definitely not what you expect. So I have a degree in accounting. I have a business degree, and I'm considering going back to school for my bachelor's. Nope, for my master's. I'm considering going back to school for my master's in accounting. And I don't really know right now if I want to or not. I'm very on the fence. It's a very big commitment, especially because if I do, I pretty much have to get a CPA. And if you know anything about CPAs, it's not easy. Easy is not even in the same realm of CPA. So, that's something that's weighing on me recently. And other than that, I work full time and I try to maintain a social life that doesn't really exist. I'm in a long distance relationship with my boyfriend, which we'll get into later, but I also have a wonderful cat. Her name's Piper. She's very pretty. I think she hears me. She probably is not listening. Yep. Okay, so like the first thing I want to talk about is like how is it that I find that women my age don't have that many interests. And like even when we do, a lot of it is like beauty standards, right? Our interests are like the gym, which is great and not always about beauty standards. Sometimes it's about exercise, it's good for your mental health and it's good for you and like it's great, that's fine. But some of it's about like getting your body to look a certain way because of beauty standards, which are internalized because of men and the patriarchy and misogyny. Yay, great, love that. And like that's cool, that's great. And then other habits and like, interests women have are like
Sorry, there's like this hair.
okay. Other habits and interests that women have, a lot of the time it's involved with like self-reflection, whether that is like astrology or whether that's like books about mental health and coping mechanisms and ways to unlearn people pleasing. And like all of these things are great and wonderful. And I actually find myself being interested in a lot of them, having podcasts that help me work on these things, having a therapist that helps me work on these things, having a support system of people where I work on these things. And I also find myself trying to take a break from all of that, because why is all of my energy focused on self-improvement? And like that's great and that's not a bad thing, but I need to relax. Like I need to rest. I need to have interests and hobbies about things that I'm genuinely interested, not because they're benefiting me or they're benefiting anybody else. So recently I've been looking for that. One of my interests unfortunately takes up less time are plants, which I kind of feel ashamed about because like I'm just nurturing, right? It's like the stereotype of women, and I hate being the stereotype of women. I love being a strong, loud woman who does whatever the fuck she wants all the time, and just doesn't care about their repercussions because I should be able to act as a man does and experience the same outcomes from it. You'll notice I burp a lot. It's just like a micro way of expressing myself. But other than that, like I genuinely am looking for more forms of media and more ways to connect with women that genuinely I feel like have their own interests that aren't focused on the male gaze, interests that aren't focused on how they look, and interests like that are just like their own hobbies, like whether it be like hiking or snowboarding or something that's not physical, like video games. And like even like video games sometimes I'm like is this me or is this me doing what I think men want me to do, right? And it can be either, and that's very personal. Um, but I do want to play more video games, but like it's hard because it takes up time and I'm not very good at it, and like naturally, like most people, you want to do things that you're good at, right? Like you want to just pick up a hula hoop and go like, "Oh my god, I can hula hoop. Like look at me." And with video games, I cannot just pick up a video game and go, "Oh my god, look at me. I'm so good at video games." Like I'm just not. I actually have to like work at it, and like I don't know if I want one of my own hobbies to be something I have to work really hard at. You know, like I work really hard at my job and being a good person, and I work hard in all these other areas of my life. Like maybe I don't want my hobby to be something I have to work hard at. Is that like too much to ask? Is that like crazy of me? I'm always working, I'm always going, I'm exercising, and I'm just doing things. So, with that, um, I'm looking for more podcasts and more TV shows and more communities of women that I can join so that I can have a better sense of these are my hobbies, these are things I'm interested in. With that being said, I feel like astrology is a really big hobby of mine, which I love, but I've also taken a little bit of a step back from it in the last few months, mainly because the apps that I had that were notifying me daily were sometimes negative, and I'd let that negative notification, because I truly do believe in astrology, right? Like, I truly do believe that, depending on the transits, like, your time is going to be this week or this month or today is going to be a little bit harder for you, and that's fine, but I was letting that ruin my day. I was letting this be like, well, fuck, now I'm gonna have a shitty day because, Mars is in retrograde. And, like, that's, like, not always true. And I just turned all those notifications off a few months ago because I genuinely was having a bad day because I was like, well, the transits are in this today, so I'm just, it's gonna be a shitty one for me. And, like, that's just, like, not how I want astrology to affect me, so I decided to stop being notified for it. Um, and that's another one of those hobbies that's like a little bit of self reflection, right? Like, if you genuinely, truly read into your own horoscope and like not just your sun sign in your horoscope, but like your whole birth chart, if you like read every day about how the current transits are affecting you based on your placements, like that requires some self reflection, even if it's at the end of the day, for, you to look at your transits and go, okay, well, due to this and this and this, I'm going to have a difficult time communicating with somebody of authority today. And you have to look back at your day and go, did I actually? Do I feel that way? Or, X, Y, or Z. But it still requires self reflection. And, like, that can get exhausting. That can get draining. We were just in COVID. Like, we were literally all in isolation, staring at our phones and deciding what we wanted to hyper focus on for a week, And, like, that's great, but you can only take so much of that before it affects your mental health. And like your mental comes first, it just does. So anyway, trying to find more hobbies. When Sex and the City comes back on, because they're doing a reboot, I will be talking about that on Patreon. Absolutely. I also have a food video I just did. It's like, how Lizzo makes those food TikToks where she just like eats food? Yeah, I did one of those, and it's like 7 minutes long. I might insert a clip of it into this video if I can figure out how. And maybe I'll release the whole thing on Patreon if you want the unedited version, because I do make some pretty good comments in that video. Not to boost myself up too much, but aside from that, I wanted to talk about the recent thing that happened on OnlyFans where everybody was saying that creators were no longer going to be allowed to post nudity and porn and explicit content. And like they've done so much to make OnlyFans a safe place for sex workers and content creators of all types, and it kind of shocked me because, like, not gonna lie, I have genuinely thought about starting an OnlyFans multiple times. Be like, well, income would be nice. I know I can do it. I've got the content for it, And it's like, it's not a bad thing. However, with my career and the opportunity of becoming a CPA and working as a certified public accountant for a firm one day, that could get me fired. That could unfortunately, and it sucks that it has to be this way, right? Because fuck the man. But that can get me not hired. And you have to claim that income on your taxes. And like if you're working for like a big four firm, like they're gonna check who your employers were. They're gonna check that you were honest on all of your applications. Um, so unfortunately, like that's been one of the biggest things stopping me. But even still, like I feel for those creators, and like that's super unfortunate. Um, but I actually saw like a few tweets recently from actual content creators on OnlyFans that talked to the managers and the people who run the app themselves for OnlyFans, and they said that nothing was actually going to change, and like that was just a lie that came out. So like I'm not very sure what to believe. If you guys have any insight on that, like please let me know because I really like I'd like to know exactly what's going on, like the truth and like what's current. So I don't want to be continuing to spread misinformation ever. So other than that, I've been looking for new podcasts about like just with women being funny and women talking about their interests and their hobbies and like their hobbies not pertaining to like how they look, right? Um, Recently I spent about 2 weeks with my boyfriend who came to visit me, and he just left yesterday, very unfortunately. But he got me into like one of his podcasts, and it's like TMG. I'm sure you guys know of like who Tiny Meat Gang is. But like the two main guys who run the podcast, they're very funny. They have very funny girlfriends. But aside from all of that, like I was sitting at my desk today working, and a lot of the time I listen to music, or I listen to podcasts, or I listen to YouTube. I just take in a lot of media because I can like multitask, love a little bit of ADHD in my life. And I was like listening to some podcasts, and I was like, am I gonna listen to TMG? And like I started it, and I was like, yeah, but like I don't want all of my interests to be my boyfriend's interests. Like I don't want to take on his personality. That's like not healthy. And like I'm way too aware of this, for a good reason, right? Because it's like happened to me before. But like at the same time, I can listen to his things and take interest in his interests, but I also have to maintain my own interests. So I like looked up like podcasts run by women. And they're all about like women empowerment and like let's go do this and like women kicking ass and like all of the podcasts are like that, and I'm like that's great and that's lovely and that's wonderful and that's like what I'm looking for, but not at this time. Like I genuinely want a place where like women are just talking about things that women like for their own well-being. They're talking about HGTV, or they're talking about building a deck or a fire pit. Maybe they're talking about skateboarding. Like whatever their fucking interests are, like I just want to know, and like I want to be interested in it too. And like I want to have friends where I can share media with them and we're interested in the same types of media, and they're not just like here's the new workouts that I'm doing to grow my glutes, and I'm like I love that, I do, and I love going to the gym and I love doing hip thrusts, I do, but I want to develop a personality outside of the male gaze, people. This is what we're focused on. I'm so heated about this. But, so if you guys have any good recommendations, other than taking men's hobbies, and not specifically my boyfriend's hobbies, but like, I'll pick up video games if I have to. It's like men have everything. And like, I'm not. It sounds so bad. But like genuinely, they have video games and they have skateboarding, and I'm just like naming the same 5 things over and over again. So like, please help me come up with something. Okay, I had one drink. But like, why don't women have? And when we do have anything, it gets fucking shamed. Like astrology is like typically like a women-dominated hobby. Okay, well, it gets shamed all the fucking time by men. They're like, oh, this is a bunch of bullshit. Or you're like, you see those tweets that are like, Mom, what's my date of birth? Like, da 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 da. And she's like, don't talk to her. And like, yes, that's a very funny tweet. I get it. But like, we can't have anything. If it's not about fixing ourselves, we can't fucking have it. And I'm tired of it. So that's what I came to bitch about today. And I also wanted to talk about what it's like working in the business world as a professional in like the corporate world, and also being 22. and having just graduated in May, like the switch from being a full-time student and like fucking waking up at 10 a.m. to go to your 11:45, like to being at work from 7:30 to 4 Monday through Friday is just such a different thing. And I feel very out of place in my current job. I feel like there's nobody who I can like really talk to about like who I am. I feel like I have to filter myself around everybody. I'm very much like a libtard, you know, and like I just like can't say any of that to them because I have to like put on a face, you know, and it's like dumb. And like don't get me wrong, like one of my managers likes plants and has 3 cats and yada yada yada, but she's like 32 and getting married in October, okay? So like she's a wonderful human being, but she's my supervisor. I'm not gonna come up to her and be like, so who'd you vote for in the last election? Like, I'm not gonna do that no matter what because I can't. I can't do that with anybody at my job. However, there are some cool people, but I just don't feel like I can be the unfiltered version of myself, and it's so hard to make friends because the only 2 people at my job who are even remotely close to my age are both 25 and they're both men. And like, that's cool, we're friends, but I'm not like, oh my god, hey, come get drinks with me later. You know what I'm saying? Like, we go out in a group and like we can hang and like that's cool, but it's not like, so I'm getting my nails done, like, what color do you think I should do? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just not close like that, and that's fine. Like, I don't need that relationship with those people, but it's really hard to make new friends once you graduate from school and you spend 40 hours a week at a job. You basically only have time to come home and take care of yourself. Like, this is my apartment. I literally come home and I make myself dinner and I do the dishes and I'm like, oh, am I gonna go outside? Am I gonna take a walk or take a bike ride or do whatever adults do? Like, I sit down and I read my book for 30 minutes before bed. Like, it just, whoo, I feel like I grew up overnight and like, ugh, ew, I'm not crying. Disgusting. Um, but I'm tired of it. So, and I just started. So if you see me going back to school for a master's in accounting, it might be because I want to further my career, and it also might just be because I no longer want to work a full-time job and I'd rather spend a year back in school. I feel like I could be a student forever. And like this might be a super unpopular opinion, so forgive me, but genuinely being a student is like fun. Like you get to fit it into your schedule and do what you want when you want to. And like you know that you're going to get it done before the deadline. You know, we've been doing this our whole lives. Like genuinely from ages like 4 or 5 to like now to like 22, right? Assuming like you didn't take a gap year. We've been professional students our entire lives. And I'm kind of okay with the idea of taking out loans and expecting the government to forgive them so they can just pay me to be a student for my entire life. Like, it's furthering society, right? Like, I'm paying whoever the university owner is and, like, the professors and all of that great stuff. And you guys wanted me to pay them because tuition increased ridiculously in the last 50 years, but never mind, we're not going to get into that. So, these are my current grudges with the world. I hope you agree. And on that note, thanks for playing. Thanks for coming. And have a good week. It's Friday night. Go out.